Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Hope you have an excellent Monday. I know it's early in the week, but if you grind through Monday, you can probably get through to next Monday. Today's episode, brothers and sisters, is something that we've been talking about, kind of been throwing around, kind of touched on a little bit. But I want to talk about Muhammad Ali, his spiritual journey from Christianity to Islam. Earlier today, I did a rather lengthy and probing interview talking about the aspects of Muhammad Ali as a champion, as a humanitarian, as a believer. And I really came to this space, in my own estimation, that I really don't understand the magnitude of the man. Now, let me explain what I'm saying. Of course, we see him as Muhammad Ali, the boxer, and all these things. You know what was really, really interesting is just beginning to piece together just small, finite pieces, very, very fine pieces of his character in a person who reveled in the idea that the better self was always going to be found with a personal journey to improve a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, here's the thing that's interesting. It's easy to say that in a tone and in a didactic that connotes somehow that we Muslims are in this space. But his Islam, brothers and sisters, is framed in a particular way where it affects people who are not Muslim. I said earlier today that Muhammad Ali is one of the people, once he's gone, we realized that we had a superhero in our midst. And when I say a superhero, I mean not somebody with a cape, not somebody who had x-ray vision, somebody who could swim underwater, talk to the fishes or the animals. This was a guy who excelled in the fact that his human flaws and the identity that I want to correct my human flaws affected people around him. From the aspect of coming from Malcolm to Elijah Muhammad, you have a generation of men, particularly black men, particularly young black men who found themselves situated in this idea that identity, if you will, was growing beyond the boundaries of the United States. What I'm saying is the U.S. understanding and framing of black identity, it didn't matter to these men. And from that small group called the Nation of Islam, brothers and sisters, it fostered this thing that it was more important than the black man is better than the white man. It was that the black man had a place in the United States and it was important. It didn't say that the white man had to be anything different, that the woman had to be anything different. It said in this particular positioning, brothers and sisters, we were relevant and we were important. It's easy to look at his boxing. And I would refer everybody to the documentary he did called When We Were Kings. At about the 56-minute, 48-second part, he talks about fighting George Foreman. At this point, brothers and sisters, George Foreman is a monster. He's knocked out everybody. Ken Norman, he's knocked out Joe Frazier, who were people that gave Ali fits in the ring. And he destroyed them. And he starts boxing. And he says, I'm in the ring. And he says, at some point in time, I'm going to look up and go, how did this happen? And he's going to say, Allah. He's going to say, this happened because of Allah. Now, everybody say, Allah, God, however you want to say it. But he's saying that it happened in spite of myself. The good me, the bad me, it happened in spite of myself. And he said, if I focus on this man as a fight, as opposed to an opportunity, a pathway to help my people, he said, I'm going to be like everyone else. He said, this God rules the universe, which ties, of course, into the idea that I'm the greatest. The idea of I'm the greatest is I'm the least, brothers and sisters. It's a farcical understanding. I'm the least. And that, he says, is on the eve of this fight where he could have lost everything. He fought somebody that was bigger than him, stronger than him, younger than him, more powerful than him. And in this space, he catches himself looking at his own mortality, not just a fight, looking at his own mortality, and says, if this were the fight that were to end it all, how would I return to my Lord? That, brothers and sisters, is the Muhammad Ali that is legendary. That, brothers and sisters, is the Muhammad Ali that we all know and love. There is no character in the last 30, 40, 50 years where everybody can say, I have a Muhammad Ali story or a connection to Muhammad Ali. I met Muhammad Ali when I was young. I met him with my mother. I met him on my own. I went to his janazah. Now, here's the story. For me to say that, that's not a special story. A lot of people met Muhammad Ali along the way, and they met him in certain levels of his life and engaged with him in certain, I want to say, metaphysical understandings of how he was living his life. And I think the beautiful thing, it's all relevant. It's all relevant and it's all valuable. Today, we're going to talk about aspects of Muhammad Ali's life. We're going to benchmark some of this information from, of course, the Muhammad Ali documentary podcast called The Universal Title. And I hope to bring some things in, and maybe this is part 1 or 2, or part 1 or 2 and 3. But I think it's important that we engage this stuff because even in the podcast, as well as it's documented, one of the things that you have to do is you have to connect it to your present. That you have to connect it to your present. Muhammad Ali, or the ideology of Muhammad Ali, is not a dead concept. In the interview that I said today, a lot of the things about narrative and something, and one of the things I didn't get to say in the interview, one of the reasons I wanted to be a part of the podcast was that the estate of Muhammad Ali had been purchased. I don't know how much money, but it had been purchased. And as I would watch Muhammad Ali stuff come out, documentary, whatever, that had his branding on it, increasingly, it had less and less mention of his spiritual dynamic, his connection to the Supreme Being, his connection to his community. And it was commercialized. It was made to be like Muhammad Ali had no spiritual connection to the great things that he became and the great things that he promoted. He was our superhero. He was our guy. When Muhammad Ali fought Joe Frazier the first time after he was allowed to fight and get his license back, let me tell you a story. He lost to Joe Frazier. But I remember after the fight, grown men speaking of Ali and crying because we loved Ali. And Ali, whether he met us or not, he loved us. Brothers and sisters, we're going to get the show started. Welcome to the Shout Out Show. I'm Preacher Moss. Let's go. And we're back. So let me welcome everybody to the show. You know, we do the monologue up front. If you're coming down the show for the first time, thank you for coming and joining us. We ask that you participate fully. If you have something to say, get in our comment section, give what's affectionately known as your shout out. You're welcome into the Shout Out Show, a part of the Shout Out Show family, if you will. If you don't mind, also hit the subscribe button, the link button, the notification button, if you don't mind. We have 166 subscribers, trying to get to 167. But more so, we want you to come and enjoy the ambiance of what is the Shout Out Show. While I probably say I'm the host of the show, I am not the owner of the show. I'm not the owner of the platform. It is the people who are the secret sauce of the Shout Out Show. The people who come here often, the people who also drop through. These are the people that make the Shout Out Show special. Also, the subject matter. We're talking about Muhammad Ali today, but Muhammad Ali, again, makes this show special. Not me talking about Muhammad Ali, But we'll get to that a little bit later. So if you're on the show for the first time, thank you so much. And like I said, welcome. Here's the other part that you need to know. If you come on the show enough, we will consider your admission into the Shout Out Show family, Shout Out Show soldiers, because these are the stars in the building. These are the people who come every week. They make the show what it is. They support our ideas. They support our platform. They support our progress, for lack of a better word. So, without further ado, let me show you the stars in the building. First up, we got what's going on, Sister Reed? Sister Reed playing birthday, big auntie. Thank you so much for that, Sister Reed. I hope you enjoy that chicken that I gave you. That is halal chicken. You can eat that with absolutely no compunction about anything. Halal chicken is the best chicken you're going to have. It is blessed before you put that grease on it. Yes, indeed. Thanks again, Sister Reed. Next up, we have Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi barakatuh, little brother. You need to call your niece. You need to call your niece. A little birthday thing going on here for our ladies. And a special shout out to my sister-in-law, Yolanda. Yolanda Thomas coming on. Well, she didn't come on the show yesterday, but Yolanda, you know we love you and happy birthday to you. All right, little brother. Good to see you. We'll be giving you a call. Expect one, inshallah. Brother Tariq, what's going on, man? I appreciate you, Brother Tariq. For y'all don't know, I'm just gonna make a video of you, Brother Tariq. Give me a lot of mathematics like you did that day I first saw you at Bayam, man. I still have that paper. I don't have the paper. You know what I did? I took a picture of it. I still have it. Man, for those that know, Brother Tariq is from the first, came through the second, and trying to make his way, make the third something that's real for all of us. Love you, brother. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And we're going to talk about Muhammad Ali. So, and please do jump in because I know you're in that space with the champ. Unlike me, young head, I know you were there from the early. So your perspective is definitely appreciated. That's Brother Tariq. Next up, we got Altaf Rashid, always here at 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down. My brother here is the ambassador to the Shout Out Show, the Canadian ambassador to the Shout Out Show. Brother, we appreciate you coming on the show. We'd love to get some of your comments about Muhammad Ali. You know, I think I'm a little bit older than you, but it'd be interesting to get some of your perspective on how you saw Muhammad Ali. I was fortunate to have a Muhammad Ali throughout my whole existence. My whole adult life, if you will, up until the time he passed away, and was fortunate to be able to go to his janazah, not particularly his janazah, but a reminding of how, what's the word? A reminding of how, I want to say how grounded he was in the midst of everything. Imagine you go to a place, like you go to a Walmart or Sam's Club, and you're walking down the aisle and you see Mike Tyson. And then you go into produce and you see Louis Farrakhan. And then you say, let me go over to get my prescriptions, and you see Arnold Schwarzenegger. And you go over here and you go, oh, I want to look at some magazine, get some candy, and there's Will Smith. That was his janazah. But let me explain that. All of these people that I mentioned, they were all the same as everyone else who came to his janazah. I watch people like my heroes, like Sugar Ray Leonard, cry at the loss of Muhammad Ali. Wait, let me back up. Sugar Ray Leonard crying, Mike Tyson crying. They have to console each other because the loss is so immense. You know, when you talk about people that mean something like that, it is deep. So let me welcome. What's going on, brother Eric? Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi barakatuh. What's going on? My brother's giving me he's giving me all the peace. He's giving me all the mercy. He's giving me all the blessings. I appreciate you, brother. Don't half step. Good to see you, brother. And of course, we have our consultant producer, Sister Satana, working ones and twos. Thank you again, Sister Satana. She did a great job, everybody, working on this interview for Muslim Journal. Hopefully, we'll be able to show some segments of it here on the show. Gotta make sure we shout out. And do please, if you get a chance, Masters are back open again. When the Muslim journals come back through, please order your Muslim journal, get a subscription. All right, free plug. Muhammad Ali's spiritual journey, brothers and sisters, and I want to emphasize that you can go listen to the actual podcast called The Universal Title. I think Sister Tana will put that up on a banner for you. You know, the interesting thing about Muhammad Ali's spiritual journey from Christianity to Islam is not necessarily rooted, hear me now, it's not necessarily rooted in race. I've made that mistake before. It's not rooted in race. It's rooted in accountability. Now, his spiritual journey starts when he was a kid. He starts questioning, he looks at religion as the one thing, if you will, that's supposed to correct things. The one thing that's supposed to correct people's spirits. It doesn't happen. And so his question becomes, brothers and sisters, not so much about who I am as a man, but who people want to portray me as. I think one of the most serious things in the world is how people see you as a believer. Even in our own religion of Islam, there are too many people who want to prescribe what a believer should be. I've been a big fan, and Muhammad Ali always emphasized this, that, Allah is going to meet you where Allah is going to meet you. God's going to meet you where he needs to meet you. You don't set an appointment and tell God to come. God sets an appointment and then you come. You see what I'm saying? Giving it a little framing. But the thing about Muhammad Ali, and I think this is special, is that at a very young age, he looks at religion as a pathway, and not a pathway to being a religious scholar. He looks at it as a pathway in terms of how you look at the world. How you look at the world. Now, a lot of people talk about Muhammad Ali, the story is during one of his boxing tournaments, if you will, at a very young age, he loses a fight. He loses a fight in the amateurs. But while he's in Chicago at this time, he gets an album. And the album essentially is, white man's heaven is a black man's hell. Brother Tariq, you know about that album, right? And his auntie says that he listens to this album over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. In some regards, deprogramming a lot of what he's been told and a lot of what he's seen, brothers and sisters. Not just what he's been told, what he's seen. One of the things I've never had to do is watch my parents be subservient to inferior laws. Let me explain this. I'm 54 now, but I never had to watch my mother and my father or my grandparents have to compromise their lifestyle and their beliefs for Jim Crow laws, for segregation laws. Muhammad Ali grew up in that space and had to watch his parents bowed by this thing. And the question was not so much the race of it, but the reason and the rationale that went along with it. I'm a big fan of Islamic studies. I'm a big fan of religious studies. And I will say this as a comedian. Religious studies are always interesting because you can always take the premise of an idea and base it against the behavior of the people. Meaning that if you tell me something, and I'm very much this way, and I know a lot of people are, if you tell me something and you act like it's absolute, when I see you, I want to see you absolutely acting on it. If it means that you have to put yourself in an inferior position to hold on to this idea, then that's what I expect to see. And religion at this very young age for Muhammad Ali is interesting because he watches his parents, particularly his mother and grandmother, who were deeply rooted in Christianity. And I want to say, he never totally rebuffed Christianity. He had a question about how Christianity worked for him. But a lot of you don't know that his father was an artist. His father used to paint religious pictures throughout churches in Louisville. Pictures of white Jesus and things like that. And he always said, his father was an incredible artist. Some of his work would move you to tears. But would it move you to logic? Would it move you to intellectual engagement in terms of what you're seeing? And the question was not how, but it was when. A lot of people believe that when Muhammad Ali got down to fight Sonny Liston, that he was don't fool yourself. He was an educated man. This thing had been going on from the time he was 16 years old, brothers and sisters. And I think we need to make that connection. The connection that this is a young man thinking about his religious presence, his religious identity at that age. And it's not a popular position for Black people to know who they were in terms of religion. Forget society, religion. You were told who God was, and that's the way you're supposed to go. Muhammad Ali gives us that thing. So one of the questions that was asked to me was about how I came to Islam, the people that I enjoy. I love Muhammad Ali, and I'm going to tell you why. Because as a young man, I got to watch a Muhammad Ali fight with my grandmother. And while I knew his name was Muhammad Ali and I didn't know much about Islam, admittedly, I got to watch my grandmother yell, scream with tears in her eyes, watching in her heart Cassius Clay. That's what she called him. She couldn't bring herself to call him Muhammad Ali. She called him Cassius Clay. And in her mind, whatever journey he was on, she wished that she was on it. And having her children watch this man, this Black man, fight not just the opponent in front of him, but fight the societal problems and racism and white supremacy that all of us were fighting, it was cathartic. That you could punch somebody with this hand, a white man, and not go to jail. That you could stand up afterwards and say, yes, I whooped this person. Now let me tell you how I'm guided. And by the time he got to Miami and he beat Sonny Liston, we all know that he was Muslim before he fought Sonny Liston. But the joy my grandmother said is that this was a Black man giving credit for his victory, for his focus, for his discipline to anyone other than white society. And she said, I may not call a man Muhammad Ali, but I'm going to call him a man. That, brothers and sisters, is a thing that has to do with his spiritual journey. Asking questions. His first wife, well, not his first wife, his second wife, talked about the engagement that they had around, of course, a newspaper that showed a Black man trying to pray. Hear me now. This is before the second. A Black man trying to pray and a white master catching him. And him having to be smart and use cunning and guile to fool this man to let him know that, I'm praying the same God you are. And he was not. During the process of the universal title, I found myself seeing something that was really important. I found that Muhammad Ali is probably one of our last Pan-Africanists. The people who talk to Mobutu, the people who talk to, Egyptians, the people who I'm talking about in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. He talked to Yasser Arafat. This was a universal man. And maybe at the time he was doing it, we didn't understand that he was going to possibly be the last one to do it, who wasn't a president or head of state. In the same way he would talk to the presidents and heads of states, he would talk to people he say the wine heads and the prostitutes and the kids. You know, I was watching an excerpt from When We Were Kings, the documentary, and they asked him to say something to the kids. You know what he said? Kids don't eat so much sugar. He said, don't eat so much sugar. And he immediately said, I have cavities. I got a cavity here and a cavity here. So it wasn't a don't do it. He was like, look at me. I'm telling you why not to do it. He says, I can't chew the way I'm supposed to. And then he said, you know what? Look for good role models. He emphasized at a child level that it's important for us to have knowledge of self. If there's anything I do regret throughout the years, is that we don't use the term knowledge of self the way we're supposed to. The way we're supposed to emphasize it is not just knowledge of self. You need knowledge of self so you can understand who I am. So you can have this ownership of this grandiose ideology of life, fairness, and equality that I've been trying to tell you about. That the religion in and of itself talks about. The religion of Islam talks about it. The religion of Judaism talks about it. All Abrahamic faiths talk about it, but they don't do it. Muhammad Ali did it. And maybe we don't appreciate it as much as we should. Sadly, it took for me to do 6 episodes of a podcast to realize I still don't understand who this guy is. I still don't have a full appreciation, even though I have adoration. Appreciation means that I haven't done particularly the research and delved into this man, into what he believed. I mentioned earlier this documentary, When We Were Kings. And he starts talking about fighting George Foreman. Like I said, he was a beast. What I didn't say was everyone around Muhammad Ali was in fear for his life. They thought this was not the fight he was going to retire from. They thought he was going to die in the ring. And the consummate believer he is not that he makes dua or he puts on the air to give himself confidence. He puts it on to give the people around him confidence, to levitate their heart so that they can feel better about this situation, so they don't have the doom and gloom, the sadness, if you will, so that he makes them smile because he knows their hearts hurt. If he goes out here and he gets hurt. Do you understand what I'm saying? And in an instant, brothers and sisters, in an instant, I tell you, go to the documentary, 56 minutes and 45 seconds. You will watch a man in the midst of everything that people think this man is going to die in a ring. This is a man who gives a khutbah that it's amazing in that he shows you, he compels you to believe other than what he's talking about. Belief in bigger things other than the fight. He literally goes from the idea of faith to belief. From iman to tawakkul, that I have full faith in my God, that whatever happens is under the dominion and the opinion and the approval of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Brothers and sisters, you can't do any better. For an example, so we're gonna pop some of that up. Hopefully, it's just Sultana. I'm glad she's got it queued up. But I encourage everybody to go to the Universal Podcast. You can wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcast or Anchor, wherever you get your podcasts, go there and listen to the story of Muhammad Ali, the spiritual journey from Christianity to Islam, because it's not easy. And maybe in that space where you realize it's not easy, we can grow that appreciation. I mean, we have adored adoration, but I'm talking about a true appreciation, understanding that this was a man who, as great as he was in our eyes, he saw the greatness of God at another level, at a very different level. And maybe we can pick up some hints and some inspiration, if you will, along the way. All right. So, Sister Tana, do we have the link, if you will? What's going on, Brother Carter? I gave Brother Carter his salams now. You only get one salam from me, Brother Eric. I know that's not your fault. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What's going on, Adam? Adam, check out the universal title. The Muhammad Ali documentary podcast. Go to iTunes. Go to iTunes and check that out. It's free, brothers and sisters. It's free. Check that out. Make sure that happens. I think I need to say it's free. My mom said he was quite a businessman. My mother should know. My mother and my aunt and my other aunt were investors in his business, his cookie business called Champ Cookies. All right. So see how it is? Muhammad Ali's been around that much that my mom met him and I met him too. So I don't want to be long-winded, but I'm going to ask everybody, please check out the universal title, and maybe we can have another show about this. But the interview that I did today so inspired me that I realized that I had a lot more to say about the man behind me right here. You know, I can't tell you how many times when I was in elementary school and I have to fight white kids, I would tell them I was Muhammad Ali. Look, wearing out 15 pairs of shoes, trying to do that shuffle, talk about float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Your hands can't hit what your eyes can't see. We were rapping back then. All right. So let me give a shout out to our sponsor, BeFinancialIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinancialIndependent.com. That's 1-800-496-6845. Again, that's 1-800-496-6845. Check them out today, BeFinancialIndependent.com. If you don't want to do the email, you can call 1-888-496-6845. All right. And we want to give a shout out to Bayan Islamic Graduate School. That's where I actually got to hang out with Brother Tariq, just so you guys know. Bayan Islamic Graduate School. If you are interested in getting quality graduate level education, go to Bayan. In fact, go to bayanonline.org. Again, that's bayanonline.org. I think if you're lucky, they might have Imam Tariq speak down there. He gave a great talk a couple years ago, so I'm hoping that thing is taped. I'm going to go back and check it out. So listen, that's our show, brothers and sisters. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any information you'd like to ask me about Muhammad Ali, I probably can't do it any justice. Go to potentially one of the best researched documentary podcasts on Muhammad Ali. Again, the universal title. You can go to Spotify, you can go to iTunes and just download it. 6 episodes, it'll go quickly. It's well produced, it's well written. I was happy to be the host and narrator on the project. Thank you guys so much for tuning into our show. Make dua for the champ, that he makes dua for us. And I want to give a shout out also to Brother Kendrick. Hope you're feeling better. I want to also give a shout out to our sister Lorraine Kitchen, wife of Reggie Kitchen. She's having some health issues, so please keep her in your dua, everybody. That's it for me today. This is the Shout Out Show with Preacher Moss. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yo, assalamu alaikum. I'm Preacher Moss, comedian extraordinaire, but I like to add a new title to my name. I'm Professor Preacher Moss. You know why? Because I just graduated. Wait a minute. Let me get this out of here. This is it. Okay. I'm Professor Preach Moss, and it's come through the courtesy and the blessing of the Muhammad Ali Scholarship, which came through Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Now, listen, I know a lot of you people are thinking, can I do it? Yes, you can do it. This is the part where I'm supposed to say it's easy. It's not easy. Listen, it was easy to get this degree. Trump would be a mufti. I digress. Listen, though, for you brothers and sisters that are interested, go to bayanonline.org, and you could be like me. Put yourself in the picture for Islamic education. Wait a minute, there's a picture right there. Sound like them, everybody. Take care. Preach them off.